if you thought episode 16 was loaded, you better hold on, because I got a jam-packed show today. I'm going to try to go all the way back to last Wednesday, where we last left off with everything going on in the NHL and NBA playoffs. NBA's been great. Has there been any sweeps? We'll get to that eventually. NHL, same thing. There's been a lot going on in NHL world. Still got the Battle of PA going strong. The top teams from the Pacific got quite a fight going on out there. Then we got, quite frankly, the best and most interesting series so far between two teams in the Atlantic. And then, like I said, we'll talk about some NBA, and I got a couple other things that we're going to talk about, and let's just go ahead and get into it. Before we get out to the ice, let's start on the hardwood. Okay, so the graphic shows where all the series stand right now. However, like I said, I do want to go back to last Wednesday to kind of, in a, kind of a quick way, try to recap everything that's happened thus far. Going into the first game on Wednesday between Orlando and Detroit, it was already a tied series at that point, and really there wasn't a lot to love from the standpoint of Orlando in this one. From Detroit. Other than Cade Cunningham with 27 points. Tobias Harris helped out with a double-double, 16 and 11. Jalen Duren, for really this entire series thus far, has not looked great. In this one, he was one board shy of a double-double, 11 and 9, shot 40% from the floor. But like I said last time we were talking, they need to get more out of Jalen Duren. He has been a spectacular player all throughout the regular season. And if they have any shot of making it deep into the playoffs, they're going to get a lot more out of him. They're going to need it, because Cade can't do it all on his own. You had Duncan Robinson and Thompson both with over 10 points. Isaiah Stewart, 10 and 5. But on the other side, Paolo Banchero had 18, 6 and 8. Jalen Suggs, 19 and 6. Desmond Bane, 12 and 4. And Franz Wagner, 12 and 7. So the outcome of this one was 98 to 83, with Detroit winning that one. And when you look at the stats, not just the player stats, field goal percentage, 45.9 to 32.5 favored Detroit. 3-point percentage actually slightly favored Orlando, but both teams were pretty abysmal from 3. 8 of 32 for Orlando, 6 of 26 for Detroit. Free throw percentage went to Orlando with about 72%. Only 58% for Detroit from the free throw line, 14 to 24. Total rebounds was Detroit, total rebounds 57-42, but even both individually, offense and defense, offensive rebounds was 17 to 13 in favor of Detroit. Defensive rebounds 40 to 29 for Detroit. Assists 22 to 17 in favor of Detroit. Blocks was also Detroit, 11 to 6. Steals went to Orlando, 16 to 9. Orlando turned the ball over a little less than Detroit, and they had the most points off of turnovers, 19 to 18. They only had 17 turnovers, Orlando. Detroit had 22. Fast break points were also in favor of Orlando, 19 to 15. Points in the paint, that's where Orlando lost the game, really, 34. They gave up 54 points in the paint to Detroit. So it's kind of hard to come back from that one. The only time they had the lead in this game for the Magic, it was a 1-point lead. Largest lead for Detroit, however, was 27 points. So yeah, they earned that one in a massive way. And like I was saying, actually to that point, it was 1-0. So Detroit got their win there. And from there, it went on to OKC rout over Phoenix, 120 to 107. I could sit here and go through all the numbers, but again, this was last week. And OKC, if you look at team stats, it was a whopping 10-4, meaning out of the 14 statistics that really go along with the whole team stats, they owned Phoenix on 10 different statistical categories. And I can't say that we didn't see this one coming out of Phoenix. The next game was Atlanta and New York Knicks, and Atlanta shocked the world seemingly in this one. They ended up beating the Knicks 109 to 108. And for the Knicks, between their big three in OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, and Karl-Anthony Towns, technically OG Anunoby isn't considered one of the big three. It would probably be Josh Hart. But in this one, those were their top three scorers that combined for 76 points. Jalen Johnson went 24, 10, and 8 for Atlanta. CJ McCollum, 23 and 5, and 50% from three. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 14 and 3. Onyeka Okongwu almost had a double-double, 9 and 7. Jonathan Kuminga with 21 points off the bench in that one. So this one, it was pretty fair to say it was a pretty evenly matched game for the majority of the game. Atlanta just came back. The Knicks had some turnover issues late down the stretch. And CJ McCollum just pretty much was the reason for their victory in this one. Down the stretch there. I mean, Jalen Johnson was their leading scorer, 24-10. And like I said, he almost had a triple-double with 8 assists as well. Then you had Toronto and Cleveland. Toronto, they ended up taking this one 126 to 104. The surprising thing to me was that Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett together combined for 66 points total, whereas 4 of the starting 5 for the Cavs combined only had 60 points. That was kind of the story of the game. 3-point percentage, the Raptors were just not missing, especially again those two that I just mentioned with RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes. They combined for 69% from 3. Individually, RJ Barrett was 6 of 8, that's 75%, and Scotty Barnes was 3 of 5 for 60%. Brandon Ingram didn't really even get anything going. I think I talked about this last time. That's something that intrigues me. I do fully expect Cleveland to be able to knock Toronto out eventually, but if Brandon Ingram really got going with the way that RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes have been playing, Toronto could be a monster that people are just sleeping on. And it was really a large swing in favor of Toronto when you look at the team stats as well. Like I mentioned before, there's 14 categories. Toronto had 10 of those categories they had bested Cleveland in. Then you go to the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Man, so in this game in particular, we're talking about last Thursday, Ant played 23 minutes. He was in foul trouble, plus he was nursing a knee injury. And they still, even with a limited version of Ant Edwards, they were still able to win this game, largely off of Jaden McDaniels with his 20, 10, and 3 double-double. Jokic and Murray together only scored 43 points, and that's really kind of the biggest takeaway from that game. But like I said, we got a lot to get to here, and last thing is the team stats for this one. You could look just at the team stats, not even look at the score, and go, okay, Minnesota must have won this one. Yes, it was only 113-96. But 11 of these categories were in favor of Minnesota. Then you go to the first game on Friday was the Sixers and the Celtics. Boston, it was 108-100 was the final. So, what was interesting with this game was Tatum and Brown together had 50 points. Maxey had 30. Derek White had 11 points. Like I said, Maxey had over 30. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to get Embiid back for that one. Ultimately, he did not play. And Boston, like I said, they took that one. The other game on Friday, we had the Lakers and the Houston Rockets. So this was, I believe this was the game where it came down to LeBron had the ball late. He put up a three. It kind of hit the rim, bounced high up in the air, did not fall in. They ended up going into OT. This game for Houston was actually without Kevin Durant. And yeah, LeBron ended up with 29 and 13. Rui Hachimura had 22. Marcus Smart had 21 and 10. I believe that was Marcus Smart's first game back. Luke Kennard also sprinkled in 14. Jackson Hayes had 12 and 4 off the bench. But like I said, this game went to OT, and the Lakers ended up winning in OT by 4, 112-108. Alperen Sengun put on quite the performance, 33 and 16 with 6 assists. He also had 3 steals as well. Thompson had 26 and 11. Jabari Smith had 24 and 6. Reed Shepherd had 17 and 4, but ultimately it was not enough for them to be able to go on to get the win. Okay, so with this one, the team stats, it was a very close game. You could tell just by looking at that. The Lakers edged them out 7-6, while they both tied with blocks. They both had 6 blocks apiece. Largest lead for the Lakers was 15-point lead. Largest lead for Houston was 6. Let's see. Points in the paint, 54-50 in favor of Houston. Fast break points, 15-9 in favor of Houston. Points off of turnovers, 22 for the Lakers, 17 for Houston. Total turnovers, Houston only had 15. 20 for the Lakers. Steals was in favor of Houston, 15-12. But yeah, so after that game, it was 3-0. Let's just keep going. Friday, Spurs 120-108 over Portland. This game was the game that the Spurs played without Wemby. He had missed the game due to the concussion protocol. Everybody knows what happened. He ended up hitting his head going up for a rebound. As he came down, he fell. He hit his head pretty hard on the hardwood. That kept him out. In the meantime, Portland finished off that game and won that one. But the very next game, San Antonio won. That put them up 2-1. Stephon Castle had 33 in that game. Was 3 of 4, so 75% from the perimeter. De'Aaron Fox had 18. Luke Cornett sprinkled in a double-double, 14 and 10. Harper, 27 and 10 off the bench. Drew Holiday was the leading scorer for Portland with 29 and 6. Scoot Henderson had a very good game, 21 points for him, and he was 5 of 10, 50% from 3. So, let's see, what's next? Saturday was the next game between Orlando and Detroit. This time, Orlando, behind a Paolo Banchero performance of 25, 12, and 9, along with a Desmond Bain 25 and 7. They ended up getting that done 113 to 105. Cade Cunningham 27, 5, and 9 in this one. Tobias Harris 23 and 7, shot 2 of 6 from 3. Thompson was 17 and 8. Duncan Robinson had 10 points, but again, like we keep talking about with Jalen Duren, he had 8, 9, and 1 in this one. That's not good enough. That's clearly against this physical Orlando Magic team. It's not going to be enough, man. You gotta be way more physical. You need, as Jalen Duren, being their big man, if you can't get double-digit rebounds, you gotta at least get double-digit points. I don't know, man. Anything to take that pressure off of Cade Cunningham. Tobias Harris has been doing pretty decent, but they still need, you can see by watching them play in the playoffs, it doesn't look like the same type of team that they were in the regular season. And that's why we always talk about teams that may not have playoff experience or may not have enough vets that have been in the playoffs enough. In any sport, it just gets so much tougher, especially in NBA, because in basketball, normally most of the season you can play like 15 players in a game or something like that. But, once you get to the playoffs, they lock in. They lock in with rosters of like 6 to 8 guys, maybe 9 player rotations, but I think it's normally 7 or 8 player rotations for the most part. So it means it's a whole lot more on the guys that are going to be getting time because they're not going to be sharing as much time played. So again, that's where it gets difficult really quick. And anyway, let's just keep going here. So OKC, they ended up winning their next game that put them up 3-0 against Phoenix, 121 to 109. Again, pretty much every game has been like a blowout pretty much for the most part in that series. SGA had a 42, 4, and 8 piece. Adonis Mitchell, 15 and 6. Chet Holmgren, 10 and 7. Alex Caruso off the bench with 13 and 5. Dylan Brooks led them in scoring for Phoenix, 33 and 7, 4 of 9 from 3. Then you had Jalen Green, 26, 5, and 6. Devin Booker, I don't know. Like, I don't think he lost a step. It's just he really wasn't getting a ton of shots, really, throughout this series. But he only had 16, 4, and 7 in this one. Grayson Allen had 7 points off the bench. And like I said, a complete domination, really, in pretty much every game by OKC in this series in the first round against Phoenix. They outplayed them in so many different facets. I mean, the team stats, it was 11-2. I mean, it's not even close. And I think that's exactly what we expected from this dominant team of the Thunder. Phoenix, frankly, was kind of lucky to even be able to get into the dance here in the playoffs. Next game, the Knicks, Atlanta. So this game went back to Atlanta. The Knicks ended up prevailing 114 to 98. OG Anunoby was the high scorer for New York with 22 and 10 in this one. Karl Anthony Towns had a triple-double, 20, 10, and 10. And he also went 50% from the field, 50% from 3, 7 and 9 from the charity line. Jalen Brunson had 19 in this one. Josh Hart was 10, 9, and 3. Then they had McBride with 11 off the bench. On the other side, C.J. McCollum led them in points again, 17 points. Alexander Walker had 15. Jalen Johnson had 14. Okongwu had 12. Then you had 2 guys with double digits off the bench, and Gabe Vincent and Jonathan Kuminga both sprinkling in 10 points each. Next game was Saturday. Denver and Minnesota. Minnesota took that one 112-96. This one was kind of a heartbreaker for Nuggets fans. Not only to see the Nuggets wind up going down 1-3 in the series, however, it was deeper than that because Dante DiVincenzo, it was like less than 2 minutes into the game, ended up having an injury. He kind of just fell to the ground. It was no contact or anything like that. And here it was, I believe it was his Achilles. I think he had teared his Achilles, I believe was what that injury was. Then a little bit later into the game, Edwards was airborne, and I forget if he was going up for like a block. I think that's what it was. I think it was on the defensive side. He was going up, I think, to try to block or something. And as he came down, you seen his knee just buckle. It did not look good at all. Looked like a ton of discomfort and pain. And ironically enough, it was actually on his good knee, not the knee that he's been nursing. So he ended up only playing for a span of 17 minutes total in this one and had 5 points, 3 rebounds. Julius Randle led the Timberwolves in scoring with 15. He had 9 rebounds. Jaden McDaniels went 12 and 8. Rudy Gobert, 4 points, 2 assists, but 15 rebounds. And he also had 2 steals and 2 blocks. But really, the guy that was the player of the game was Io Dosunmu, who actually was with Chicago. I'm not sure who drafted him. I knew his name before. He was with Chicago for a little while, maybe 1 year. 43 points and 4 rebounds off the bench. My man went 5 of 5 from 3, 12 of 12 from the free throw line, and 13 of 17 from the floor. Naz Reid also had a really good game, 17 and 9 off the bench. Bones Highland, he had 8 and 7 off the bench. And this one, Murray hit 30 again for the Nuggets, 35 and 5. Jokic was 24, 15 and 9. Gordon he's still been nursing his injury as well. He's trying to play through it. This one, he ended up playing a total of 23 minutes. He had 9 points and 1 rebound. Tim Hardaway had 10 points off the bench. But again, when you look at, every stat, I mean, it swung in Minnesota's favor, 8-5, with all the different categories. Sunday, there was a couple of games on Sunday, Toronto and Cleveland. Toronto ended up winning late in this one at home, thus making the series go 2-2. Donovan Mitchell, 26 and 3 for the Cavs. Harden was 19, 2 and 8. Evan Mobley had 8 and 9. Sam Merrill off the bench with 14. Brandon Ingram in this one, like I kept saying, I could only wait to see when Brandon Ingram shows up. And this one, he definitely did that. He showed up and showed out with 23 and 6, 3 of 7 from 3. Scotty Barnes, 23 and 9. RJ Barrett went 18 and 8. And then you have Jakob Poeltl with 10 and 6. And then you also had 15 and 10 from their bench guy here. Like I said, they ended up winning 93-89, and the stats showed on every single level that was Toronto's game to win. Then you had Victor Wembanyama returning to the lineup against the Portland Trailblazers, and Victor Wembanyama had a monumental performance, a masterclass of a game here. He was not the number one scorer for the Spurs in this one. It was actually De'Aaron Fox with 28, 6, and 7. However, Wemby had 27 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. He went 9 of 17 from the floor, 8 of 8 at the free throw line, but he also had 4 steals and 7 blocks. So in his own right, he was close to a triple-double with blocks. I mean, it's just, it's not how many blocks he gets, but it's more so the way that he gets those blocks, how talented he is, and what his wingspan, and I mean, the man doesn't even really have to turn around to block you. It's just, the things that he can do is just unworldly. We've never seen this before. I don't know how else to explain it, really. Stephon Castle also had 16 and 8. Vassell had 11 and 6. On the other side, Danny Avendia had 26 and 7. Drew Holiday had 20 and 6. Then they had Jeremiah Grant with 17 and 5 off the bench. And, that, it's just, I mean, it's Portland. It is Portland. Not to say Portland doesn't have good players, but again, like I said about OKC, we kind of seen the Spurs, as a dominant force that maybe only teams like Denver or OKC would be able to slow down, even though, how we just talked about a couple of minutes ago, the whole, going into playoff time, you want teams that have that experience. Well, they have a few players on here, like De'Aaron Fox, who was already in the playoffs a couple years ago with the Kings, and I believe they actually won a series. That was when Mike Brown was their head coach. Harrison Barnes, obviously, is a good one to bring up because all those years when he was with Golden State, so he's kind of used to the playoffs. But outside of that, the majority of the roster is very young for the Spurs. So even without this, major experience level from them, they're still very dominant behind Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle and guys like that. Boston and Philly Sunday for their fourth game. So Embiid came back for this game, and like I kept saying, maybe they'll win a game, but if they can push to a game 7 for Embiid to come back, well, they didn't need to wait for a game 7 for Embiid to come back. And he looked very good in his first game back. He played for 34 minutes. He went 26, 10, and 6. He was 9 of 21 from the floor. He was just 1 of 6 from 3, 7 of 9 from the free throw line. Maxey had 22. Paul George only had 16, which I feel like kind of came back to bite them. VJ Edgecombe only had 6 and 4 in 36 minutes. Kelly Oubre Jr. played 30 minutes, had 2 and 4. Quentin Grimes had 12, 2 and 6 off the bench. But this was all Boston's game. This was the Celtics' game to win, and they did just that. Tatum and Brown combined it for 50 points and 14 rebounds with 12 assists. Peyton Pritchard, too. Peyton Pritchard off the bench with 32, 4, and 5. 50% from 3, making 6 of 12. 12 of 21 from the floor. So there's really no need to say anymore. Then we got Houston and the Lakers this was game 4. Houston ended up winning 115 to 96 in Houston, backed behind performances like 23, 4, and 7 from Amen Thompson. Tari Eason had 28 and 2. Alperen Sengun 19, 6 and 2. Reed Shepherd with 17. Jabari Smith with 16 and 8. Holiday had 9 off the bench. DeAndre Ayton actually had a decent game, though, for the Lakers with 19 and 10. Rui Hachimura, 13 and 3. LeBron had 10 points. He had 10 points in 33 minutes with 9 assists and 4 rebounds. He had 8 turnovers in this game. I believe the stat said that there was 16 turnovers from LeBron alone in games 3 and 4 combined. Still, to this point, there was no Luka, no Austin Reeves. Luke Kennard had 7 points. Marcus Smart had 9, but like I said, Houston won this one. The statistics will tell you that the game was closer than it actually was. I mean, it was kind of close to, like, Houston started to pull away later, but it was dead even with the team stats, really. So the stat I was going to say earlier was so when the Lakers as a whole go up in a best-of-7 series and they lead 2-0, their historical record, they're 433-34. That's winning 92.6% of the time. The only time that they have ever lost in franchise history when leading 2-0 was back in 1969 when they lost, obviously, the championship to... 1969 to the Boston Celtics. When they go up 3-0, like they did already, they are historically undefeated, 159-0. And so also, while we're at it, the Sixers and the Celtics are playing tonight. Sixers are down 3-1. However, in these series, I don't see it going any other way, but the Sixers are 0-18 when down 3-1. On the other hand, the Celtics are 32-0 undefeated in that very same situation. So that brings us now to yesterday. Last night, Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons again. This is game 4. And the high score of the game was Cade Cunningham with 25, 9, and 6. They didn't get it done. They didn't get it done, guys. They ended up falling 3-1. Orlando, between Desmond Bane's 22, Franz Wagner had 19, Paolo Banchero had 18 and 8, Wendell Carter had 12 and 11, Jared Kane had 8 and 9, and a ferocious dunk. If you didn't see it, you got to check that out. Tobias Harris had 20 and 6, and Jalen Duren just 12 and 8 for Detroit in this one. And like we keep saying, Jalen Duren, man, if you don't step up in Game 5, that's it. It's a wrap. You're toast. Detroit's going to go home. One way or another, I do not see the Detroit Pistons coming back into this series. Sure, if they win one, but it's over. This series is pretty much over. For Orlando, job well done. And we'll talk about, obviously, Games 5, and if there is necessary a Game 6 or 7. I highly doubt it. So, now back to OKC and Phoenix series. OKC, the first game, second game, and third game, it was pretty much a rout, right? So in this game, Phoenix actually stood a shot, and I believe that at one point in the game, they had a lead. They ended up losing, ultimately 131-22. And with this one, people are starting to question, maybe it's time to move on from a Devin Booker. You can't blame Devin Booker. It's a whole team. But in terms of how great he is, and looking at his playoff record, resume, I should say, it doesn't bode well. And if you don't pay attention to individual players, you may say to yourself, well, how is he this great? And, Phoenix has now lost 10 straight home games in the postseason. They had teams around them. They had Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. They had actually gotten to the championship a couple years ago. They won like 63 games. And since then, they've had, I believe, 3 different head coaches in like the past 5 years, maybe now. So, and in this one, Booker actually paced them in scoring, the Suns, with 24. Brooks had 23 and 4. Jalen Green had 23. Colin Gillespie had 20. So, they had 4 people over 20 points in this one. But ultimately, with OKC, there's not a lot you can do, man. This team, you can't keep OKC down. Shea had 31 and 2. Chet Holmgren had a double-double with 24 and 12. Mitchell had 22 and 4. Isaiah Hartenstein had a double-double himself, 18 and 12. Alex Caruso with 14 off the bench. Casey Wallace, 10 off the bench. And the numbers are all one-sided team stats with the Thunder there. Then you got the final game of last night. You got the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And Minnesota knew that they were going to obviously be without both Dante DiVincenzo, who's done. His season is over, unfortunately for him, and the Timberwolves. And they knew that they were going to probably be without Ant Edwards. Like I said, he now has another knee injury. He was already kind of nursing a knee injury on the other knee. So Shams Charania had reported a couple days back that it seems like Ant will be out for multiple weeks. So Denver has a very big opportunity here. They came out on fire at home, which you kind of expected. Jokic went back to his triple-double self, 27, 12, and 16, led the Nuggets in scoring. Murray had 24, 4, and 7. Spencer Jones was kind of the story of the game, though. Spencer Jones came up huge for the Nuggets, especially from 3. He went 4 of 5. He had 20 points. Cam Johnson had 18, 6, and 5. Christian Braun had 9, 2, and 3. Jokic had not 1 but 2 blocks in this game. Very impressive. He's not normally the type that's going to get you blocks like that. Spencer Jones also had 3 blocks. He kind of played more of a pivotal role with Aaron Jones not being there. Aaron Gordon, not being there for the Nuggets. They're still waiting to see how everything's going to wind up with him. We're still waiting to see Peyton Watson come in. He hasn't played a single game yet. They need him in a big way. He's also a great defender for the Nuggets. Jonas Valanciunas had 9 and 2 off the bench. Hardaway had 8 off the bench. And when you look, really, the Timberwolves, even without Ant, Julius Randle, 27 and 9. Io Dosunmu had 18 and 3. Jaden McDaniels had 13 points. Bones Highland had 15 off the bench. Shannon Jr. also 15 off the bench. Naz Reid had 12 and 8. It looked like Naz Reid had actually gotten hurt at one point, and luckily he was okay, because obviously that's not what you want to see. Whether you're a Timberwolves fan or a Nuggets fan, Nuggets fans might be saying like, oh yeah, I hope, but you don't want to see somebody, get hurt, especially at this point of the year. And you don't want teams or media coming out and saying, well, they were able to get back into the series because this person was hurt and that person. You know what I mean? It happens. We're in the sports world. Injuries always happen, and it'll always either be a benefit for maybe your team or cost your team. But either way, that's not really what you want to see. So that about wraps it up for the hardwood. Now let's head to the ice. So, again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to kind of wind back for a second, rewind to last Wednesday. So, Philly played Pittsburgh. They dominated the Penguins 5-2. That put them up 3-0. That was a major shock to me. I know Philly down the stretch in the regular season was one of the hottest teams, along with some others. But I did not see Philly coming out and winning 3 straight, specifically winning 2 in a row in Pittsburgh to start the series. They were up in this game in particular 4-0 after the second period. There was 5 different players with at least 2 points. Drysdale, Juleson, Couturier all had 2 assists. Jamie Drysdale led Philly with 4 shots on goal. Their goalie, Vladar, was 28 of 30. That's a .933 save percentage. Brian Rust led Pittsburgh with 4 shots on goal. Stuart Skinner was 24 of 28, save percentage of .857. Stuart Skinner is showing, has been showing more and more why the Edmonton Oilers, why it was a fair thing for them to trade him. And again, I actually believed in Stuart Skinner. Him and Calvin Pickard. I was rooting for Edmonton for the last 2 years, much because, my team at the time, they hadn't been playoff relevant in like a decade. So, I was rooting them on. And Stuart Skinner, at times, he looked really good, but, now we're seeing it again show up in the playoffs. And, so it's a shame. Hopefully, he can revive himself again once more at some point, but it's not going to be now. Dallas Stars on Wednesday beat the Minnesota Wild 4-3. That went to 2 overtimes before it was handled. Dallas had 4 players with 4 or more shots on goal, 2 with 5 or more shots on goal. Mikko Rantanen led with 6 shots on goal. He had 1 goal, 1 assist, and 2 points. Jason Robertson had 3 points on 1 goal, 2 assists, and 5 shots on net. Jake Ottinger, he was 28 of 31 with a .903 save percentage. Everybody knows how great Jake Ottinger is. He really did a great job in that one. Minnesota had 4 players with 4 shots on goal, and Jesper Wallstedt was 32 of 36. That's a .889 save percentage. Then we move on to the latter game. Anaheim played Edmonton. Anaheim ended up winning, and they tied the series with a 6-4 win. 3 players had 4 shots on goal. Alex Killorn, Cutter Gauthier, Jackson Lacombe all had 3 points in this one. Ryan Poehling and Gauthier both had 2 goals each. Edmonton had 3 guys with 4+ shots on goal. Zach Hyman led them with 6 shots on goal. Draisaitl and McDavid combined for just 2 points. Combined for 7 shots on goal, 1 goal and 1 assist. And obviously, they needed to get way more out of specifically those 2. These guys are future Hall of Famers, no doubt about that. And, they need to step up in a big way. They hadn't really, coming into the series, Draisaitl was just coming back from an injury. And, but they need more than that. Then we go to Thursday night. So, Thursday night, Buffalo ended up winning 3-1 over Boston. They, at that point, led the series 2-1. Alex Lyons saved 24 of 25 shots. Boston, they had both Pasta and Zacha with 5 shots on goal each. Swayman had 25 of 27 saves. Buffalo kind of steamrolled them in that one. Kind of steamrolled them in every game, even though Boston really had a very big opportunity to go up 2-0, but couldn't get it done. Carolina on Thursday, so they won their game 2-1. They went up 3-0 at that point. Logan Stankoven had 1 goal and 4 shots on net. Frederick Anderson saved 21 of 22 shots. That's a .955 save percentage. The Senators, Dylan Cousins, had 4 shots on goal. And their goaltender, Linus Ullmark, had 25 of 27, .926 save percentage. And then the last game on Thursday was the Colorado Avalanche and the Los Angeles Kings. Colorado ended up winning 4-2, putting them up 3-0. That was at LA, by the way. Cal McCarr had 1 goal and 4 shots on net. Scott Wedgwood, he was standing on his head all game, 24 of 26 saves. LA's Alex Laferriere had 6 shots on goal, 2 assists, and 2 points. Then we get to Friday. So Friday, Montreal and Tampa Bay, like I've been saying all along, if you want the most excitement, the most goals scored out of any series, and you're looking for a team to watch, the series you would want to watch is definitely, in my opinion, well, it's not my opinion, it shows you with the stats, it's Edmonton and Anaheim. But if you want the close, tight-knit series where, it's back and forth every game, and it's pretty much, it's like it's the same team. It's like it's one team playing themselves is how I would view this series, and it's Montreal and Tampa Bay. Montreal leads 2-1. They won this one on Friday 3-2 in overtime. It's the only series that has went to overtime before a result in every game so far. Utah was the next game with Vegas. They ended up beating Vegas 4-2. They lead the series at this point 2-1. Dylan Guenther led Utah with 4 shots on goal. Lawson Krause had 2 goals, 2 shots on goal, 2-point performance. Utah scored 4 of their first 8 shots on Carter Hart, which is insane. And no, I don't believe Carter Hart got pulled in that game. I really can't remember. I don't think he did, though. He only faced about 16 shots in that game, I believe. But that's wild to let 4 of the first 8 shots against you go in. That's insane. The later game on Friday was, again, Anaheim and Edmonton. Anaheim won this one 7-4. Now they lead the series 2-1. 7 players from the Ducks scored. 6 of them scored on Connor Ingram. The last goal was obviously unattended. Edmonton had already pulled him out of the net. 5 players for Anaheim with 4 or more shots on goal. Mikael Granlund had 1 goal, 3 assists, 2 shots on goal, and 4 points. And Mason McTavish led the way with 5 shots on goal for Anaheim. So now Edmonton, when trailing a series 2-1, Edmonton Oilers are just 8-10, and they have actually lost 6 of their last 9 when trailing in total. So yeah, that was everything up till Friday. Saturday, Carolina ended up sweeping the Ottawa Senators. Sebastian Aho led Carolina with 5 shots on goal, 2 goals, and 2 points, obviously. Frederik Andersen, 25 of 27, .926. And you talk about someone standing on their head, so to speak. Frederik Andersen has been doing it time and time again throughout the playoffs. In the regular season, he played, amazing as well. I have a spot in my heart for Frederik Andersen. He actually played with the Anaheim Ducks as well back in the day. For the other side, for Ottawa, Linus Ullmark had 26 of 28 saves. That's a .929 save percentage, but ultimately it was obviously not enough. It's pretty puzzling when you see, there was a graphic going around that I seen, Brady Tkachuk of Ottawa. Through all 4 games, he had 0 points combined. It's a Tkachuk. I mean, that's a rarity. I feel like that's not something that we would have expected to see from a Brady Tkachuk. But hey, either way, that's a wrap for Ottawa. I don't know what type of changes they're going to have to make in the offseason. I think that they should be happy that they even got to the playoffs. I did not see them making it in. They were one of like 5 teams that was battling with the Red Wings and the Flyers, and Washington, and the Islanders. They were all kind of in the mix for that second wild card spot, and Ottawa ended up getting it with I think maybe 2 games remaining on the season. So, like I said, I think it's a win that they got this far. Unless you're a fan of Ottawa, I don't really think many people had them, on the level of the Hurricanes to be able to take down Carolina in the playoffs. But, good luck going forward. And other games on Saturday, Minnesota and Dallas. So Minnesota ended up winning 3-2 in OT, tying the series 2 games apiece. They had 3 guys with 5 or more shots on goal. Jesper Wallstedt was 43 of 45. That's a .956 save percentage. The Dallas Stars had 4 guys with at least 6 shots on goal. Jake Ottinger was 40 of 43 in the net. That's a .930 save percentage. I think Frederik Andersen, Jake Ottinger, and Wedgwood have been the best 3 goaltenders so far in the playoffs. From a save percentage aspect, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, all 3 of those guys have been great. So Pittsburgh was down 3-1. They ended up winning 4-2 behind Crosby and Letang's performances, 3 shots on goal each. Ricard Raquel and Crosby both ended the game with 2 points apiece. Artur Silovs was 28 of 30. That's a .933 save percentage for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then we get to Sunday, where Buffalo had dominated in every way, shape, and form the Boston Bruins 6-1. That put them up 3-1. Alex Tuch had 6 shots on goal. They had 6 players score on Swayman. Alex Lyon was 23 of 24 with a .958 save percentage, and Swayman obviously got benched. Colorado, they swept the Kings on Sunday. And, most of the games was 2-1. Well, this game, they made sure that they showed the Kings early it was going to be over. They won the game 5-1. Nathan McKinnon, 5 shots on goal, 2 goals, 1 assist. That's 3 points in total. Wedgwood was 24 of 25. That's a .96 save percentage. Tampa Bay, they ended up knotting the series off of a 3-2 win in overtime with the Canadians. Brandon Hagel had 2 goals. Nikita Kucherov had 3 shots on goal, 2 assists. That totals 2 points. Cole Caulfield had his first playoff game goal for the Canadians. But ultimately, like I said, not enough, and Tampa tied the series up. Then the last game of the night on Sunday was another Anaheim and Edmonton game. Anaheim was looking like that they were going to win the game. Edmonton ended up tying it up. They had to go to OT, and Anaheim won 4-3. Now the Anaheim Ducks right now are up 3-1. The Ducks are in total 6-0 all time when leading a 7-game series 3-1. And Seneca and Gauthier both had 5 shots on goal in this one. Lucas Dastal was 24 of 27. That's a .889 save percentage. And hey man, it's not unrealistic to think that Anaheim could not only make it out of this series, but then they would be playing in the next round either Utah or Vegas, where I think Utah actually may have bested Anaheim in the regular season, but when it comes to Vegas, they ended up firing their coach, getting John Tortorella, but Anaheim beat them. They shut them out. It's 3-0. They swept them. I'm sorry, not shut them out. But so I think that either way, I don't think it's as serious as a threat as like Colorado or what I thought Edmonton would be. And I think I could see Anaheim realistically getting to the Western Conference Finals before ultimately, maybe not doing so hot. I want to be realistic. I don't want to say that I got them going to the Stanley Cup. Do I want them to get there? Of course, that's my team. But I think Colorado is probably going to be coming out of the West this year. But then we get to last night. So last night in the NHL, we had the Penguins. Like I said, they were down 3-1. They go... This game was This was a home game, I believe, for Pittsburgh. They ended up winning 3-2. So now it's still Philly is still in charge here, but it's 3-2 now, letting them come back in and win 2 straight. Rickard Rakell led the Penguins with 5 shots on net. Crosby had 2 assists. Chris Letang had 1 goal. Solovs had 18 and 20 saves, a .900 save percentage. And for the Sixers, man. And for the Flyers, Alex Bump led with 4 shots on net and 1 goal. Vegas was the late game last night, and Vegas and Utah, that was a doozy. That one went into OT. So Vegas was up 2-0 in the first period. Then they led 3-2 at the start of the third period, and the Mammoth took a 4-3 lead in the third period. Ultimately, Vegas tied the game late, brought it to OT. Then they scored an OT. They thought they won the game. They showed the replay. It was actually offsides, so take the goal back off the board. It's still a 4-4 game, and then wouldn't you know it, they ended up winning the game in OT anyhow in Utah, 5-4. That's a tied series now, 2-2. Vegas' Jack Eichel led the Golden Knights with 3 points. He had 3 assists and 6 shots on goal. Utah Mammoths' Clayton Keller and Dylan Guenther both had 7 shots on goal apiece. I feel like that's a lot for one player here. And then when you look at right now, like I was saying earlier, the most exciting series in terms of just, goals being scored in crazy amount would be the Edmonton-Anaheim series. And this is what I mean. The top, really we could do 8 because so many teams are tied. The top 8 teams in goals scored, Anaheim leads all teams with 20 total goals throughout the first 5 games of the playoffs. Edmonton is tied with Buffalo. They both have 15 apiece. Then you have Minnesota by themselves at number 4 with 14 goals scored. And then tied for 5th or tied for 8th, however you look at it, because it's 4 teams that are all tied with 13 goals throughout 5 games. We're talking Vegas, Utah, Colorado, and Philly. And, yeah, man. So, like I said, it's just, there's a lot right now. But, so that's going to be it for hockey. I was going to try to do a little bit of football. I think we're going to do that on the next episode. I think I'm going to go ahead and break down, I know, you know what? There's one more thing for hockey. But football, yeah, we're going to, on the next episode, we'll talk some football with the draft and everything that happened. Before I forget, though, NHL stats. So, I got the top 5 for points leaders, and then I got the top 4 for goal scorers right now. So, just from the playoffs, Anaheim's Jackson Lacombe leads the whole NHL in points with 8. Then you have a 4-way tie between Tampa Bay's Brandon Hagel, Dallas's Matt Duchene, Carolina's Taylor Hall, and Tampa's Jake Guentzel. All have 7 points. And then goals, you got Brandon Hagel again with 6. He leads the NHL right now. Dallas's Jason Robertson is tied with Kasperi Kapanen with 4, and Logan Stankoven as well with 4 from Carolina. And then you have 11 guys tied with 3 goals, so that's why there was no top 5 there. But, so yeah, really that's going to be it there. I got some picks I'm going to get to in a minute for today and tomorrow, and I'll also tell you guys how I've made out so far the last couple of days with my picks. Before I get to that, I'm going to do this segment, Today in Sports History. So today is April 28th, and today in sports history, back in 1930 on April 28th, the first organized night baseball game was played in Independence, Kansas. 1966, the Celtics won their 8th consecutive NBA title. Red Auerbach retired. Bill Russell became the first black head coach in any major U.S. sport. 1967, just a year later, Muhammad Ali's refusal of the induction into the U.S. Army immediately was stripped of his title. Hank Aaron in 1971 hit his 600th home run on April 28th. Then you go to 1987, where 2 different things happened in the same year on the same day. Vinny Testaverde was selected as the first overall pick of the NFL draft by way of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and which he was a quarterback, by the way. I don't know if I said that. And for the NBA, they had announced their expansion teams for both Charlotte and Miami in 1987. So now we're going to get to my daily picks. Okay, so we'll go back to the 25th. I went 4-3 with my picks here. I had OKC, I had the Knicks and the Penguins and Minnesota for NHL. I had all 4 of those guys winning. I did lose with I had Detroit beating the Magic. That didn't happen. I had Denver beating the Timberwolves. Did not happen. I had Ottawa because I really thought Ottawa was going to win at least one game. Back-to-back games, I took Ottawa, and they did not win. On the 26th, I went 5-3 with my picks. The NHL, I had Buffalo beating Boston, Colorado beating the Kings, and Anaheim beating Edmonton. My only loss there was Montreal at home against Tampa. I also had Toronto beating Cleveland. I had the Spurs beating Portland, but I lost with the Sixers at home against Boston. And I also had the Lakers beating Houston at Houston to get the sweep, which they did not. Yesterday, no, that's the 27th rather. Yeah, so that's yesterday. Yesterday, I went 4-1 with my picks. I had Denver beating Minnesota. I had OKC sweeping Phoenix in the last game. I did have Detroit again beating Orlando. They did not. And NHL side, I did have both Vegas and Pittsburgh, so I was happy about that. So today I have, for NBA, originally I have Boston written down, but you know what, guys? I'm going to go with Philly. I'm going to say that Embiid helps Philly get one win with him. They already obviously won one game without him. So I'm going to take Philly there. I'm going to take the Knicks to go back up 3-2 over Atlanta. I got the Spurs beating Portland and thus ending the series tonight. Then in the NHL world, I have Buffalo beating Boston. I have Dallas at home against Minnesota. And the only road team I have between NBA or NHL is the Anaheim Ducks. I'm going to take them to go into Edmonton and end the series tonight. Give them a little bit of rest, hopefully, before the Utah and Vegas series is decided. And then I'm going to even go into tomorrow because I probably will not be back to record again tomorrow. So for tomorrow's games on the NBA slate, I'm going to take, again, Detroit to beat Orlando. I'm going to take Cleveland at home to beat the Raptors, and I'm also going to take the Lakers to wrap up that series against the Houston Rockets in LA. NHL, I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Lightning at home against Montreal to win that series. Or I'm sorry, to go up 3-2. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Penguins at Philly to tie that series. Ultimately, I think Philly will win Game 7, which is weird because it will be in Pittsburgh. But I do think Pittsburgh ties the series up at least. And then Vegas versus Utah. I'm going to take Vegas at home to take that to a 3-2 lead. And yeah, I mean, really, I think the only team that this would apply to, the NHL teams win 90% of the time when up 3-1. So for Philly, they were up 3-1, and let's see if they can get it done or be on the other 10% where they wind up losing. Like I said, I think they will win. I do like Pittsburgh to tie the series back up. And that's going to be it for me for today, guys. You know, like I always say, you can find Elite Sports Talk really anywhere, but I would appreciate you following and subscribing to both Spotify and I don't know if I already put my Substack out there, but I'm going to drop. If you don't like, you know, certain players or teams I'm talking about, or you do, you know, let me know. Let me know what you guys think. It's not just about me and my passion and love for sports, but really for everyone. And if I'm not doing a good job, then why bother, you know? So, yeah, just this was episode 17. I'm going to have more coming. And like I said, on the next episode, what we can look forward to, I'm going to try to start breaking down really division by division NFL picks. I'm going to give everybody draft grades. I'm not sure what division I'm going to start with, but that'll be on the next episode, along with more NHL playoffs and more NBA playoffs. And, you know, whatever else is relevant at the time. All right, guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate your listening, and look out for more E.S.T on the way.